I've been studying philosophy for over 10 years now. I've devoured hundreds of books, and I know how frustrating it is having to choose with so little information which one deserves your time. That's why today I bring you a clear, simple list of the 5 books you must read if you are serious about philosophy. It doesn't matter if you're just starting or you've been at it for a while. These are books I keep coming back to, and I promise they will change the way you understand this fascinating discipline. My name is Enric, welcome to this channel, let's get started. Alright, I've made sure that each book in the list covers one of the 5 essential needs of every aspiring philosopher, and here are the criteria I will follow. First, I will try not to recommend the usual stuff, so no Sophie's World, I'm sorry. That also means I won't include works by the usual classic authors, Plato, Aristotle, Nietzsche, etc. That would need a whole video on its own. On top of that, I've set 3 more conditions. The books must be useful for you, they should actually help you on your own philosophical journey. They must be accessible, easy to read, because you shouldn't be at a loss trying to understand them. And most importantly, they must be inspiring. Books that ignite or rekindle your passion for philosophy. Narrowing down all of philosophy to just 5 books isn't easy, and I will definitely leave out some that others would include and vice versa. But hey, that's life. Let's start with something basic. What does every good philosophy student need? Imagine you set sail in a small boat and reach a foreign country. You are thrilled, eager to explore every corner, but suddenly you realize you don't understand the language, the customs confuse you, you can't find the landmarks, you wander around lost, and you never really get anywhere. What was your mistake? Not having a travel guide. Well, philosophy is the same, except instead of visiting one country, you travel across the entire world, jumping through different historical eras, from Socrates to Nietzsche and beyond. And each philosopher has their own language, their own cultural context, their own questions. If you want to learn without getting lost and without burning out, what do you need? A good travel guide, a solid manual. Without a good history of philosophy manual, you'll be as lost as a tourist in a foreign land. You won't know where to start, you won't see how ideas connect, and worst of all, you won't enjoy the journey. So, what makes an ideal philosophy manual? The best manuals can be read cover to cover if you want, but you can also use them as reference books, looking up a specific author to get a full map of their thought and context, so you can then approach their main works. That's what I always do whenever I want to study a new philosopher or revisit one I've read before. And believe me, the manual you choose makes all the difference in the world. So, which one do I recommend? The one I always use, the one that meets all these conditions, except for one little thing I'll tell you in a second, is this one, Frederick Coppelstone's History of Philosophy. It's very easy to read, very complete, and quite objective too, which is rare in philosophy manuals. And it gives you the perfect framework to understand each thinker's ideas and their place in the history of philosophy. The main problem is it's huge. You can see this is a pretty thick book, and that's just the first volume, there are like 9 depending on the edition. So Coppelstone can feel pretty overwhelming, especially if you're just starting out. I will give you right now an alternative, though I still highly recommend Coppelstone, because remember, you don't need to read it all at once, just keep it as a reference book and use it selectively to learn more about the authors that catch your attention. But if you'd rather have something more manageable, all in one volume and perfectly clear, I recommend this one, Julián María's History of Philosophy. Fine, you've got your travel guide and you are eager to conquer the ocean. What else does every philosophy student need? Now imagine you hop on your boat, maybe with the first volume of Coppelstone under your arm, but just as you're about to lift the anchor, you suddenly realize you have absolutely no clue where it is. And not only that, you don't know where the rudder is, what fuel your boat runs on, which way the kitchen is, or what the heck you're supposed to do with that red light that keeps blinking non-stop. In other words, you don't know your ship. And that way you are not getting very far. With philosophy, you need to learn something similar, you need to discover what this thing called philosophy actually is. You probably already have a vague idea since you've started reflecting on your own and feeling that little thrill of philosophical curiosity. But it always helps to go deeper into those intuitions guided by an old sea wolf. someone who's been immersed in this far longer than you. And here we find almost a genre of its own, because for some reason I can't explain, in the 20th century it became fashionable to write essays on what philosophy is, on the nature of philosophy itself. Heidegger has one, Deleuze and Guattari have another, and so on, so yeah, choosing is tough. But if you held a gun to my head and I had to pick just one, I would definitely go with What is Philosophy by Ortega y Gasset.
Ortega and Gasset, my two favorite Spanish philosophers.
The best thing about this book is that even though it deals with deep and complex topics, it's actually quite easy to read. In fact, Ortega used to say that clarity is the courtesy of the philosopher. The third book I'm going to tell you about is really important. In fact, 99% of people who start studying philosophy make the mistake of not reading a book like this first. And honestly, it can save you a lot of headaches. But before that, if this video is helping you out, give it a big like so the addiction to philosophy spreads to even more people. Great, to understand this third recommendation, you need to realize something essential. The sea is full of dangers. There are monsters in the deep, sirens that can lure you in, undercurrents that drag you to frozen wastelands, volcanoes, storms, whirlpools, death lurking at every turn. It's like a maze, but not just any maze, it's a maze designed by a madman who's out to get you. In a normal maze, if you take a wrong turn, at worst you wander a bit because you quickly hit a dead end and realize your mistake. But in this one, if you are off by even a millimeter, you'll wander for days, weeks, months, years, centuries even, without realizing it, sinking deeper and deeper until you forget how to get out. I'm not trying to scare you, but philosophy is a bit like that. A tiny mistake at the start grows bigger and bigger over time, and before you know it, you are trapped in the pit of despair, wondering if anyone else even exists, or if everything's just a dream, or lost in the twists of the absurd, fiercely arguing that sometimes justice might require killing an innocent person. When you take that wrong turn, you don't realize where it will lead, but that's exactly where you are heading, inevitably and logically, even if at first you only drifted a few degrees of course. It's just a matter of time. You can spot these dead ends by studying the history of philosophy in depth, because you learn to see how at a certain moment one thinker adopts A, B, C positions, and 3 generations later another thinker draws the logical consequences from those starting points. But doing this on your own is complicated and exhausting. So what do you need then? A kind of map that shows you which mistakes to avoid, or at least showing you clearly that if you take this path, this is the logical and inevitable conclusion, and then it's up to you. And the best book that does this better than any other, in my opinion, is Mortimer Adler's 10 Philosophical Mistakes. Read this book and I promise you will get a clear view of the logical connections between certain philosophical ideas and their far-reaching consequences. And then hey, if you still want to follow that path, go ahead, it's your choice. But at least you'll know where it leads, and there will be no surprises. We've now covered 3 of the 5 basic needs of every aspiring philosopher. First, a travel guide. Second, getting to know your own ship, philosophy itself. And third, a map of the dangers to avoid. So, what comes next? In my opinion, an inspiring model. I'm sure when you were a kid you had someone you looked up to. Maybe it was an athlete or a relative or some great man or woman from the past who achieved amazing things. For me, as a big reader, they were fictional characters like Frodo and Sam. Someone whose actions, life, and example inspired you to be better, to give your best in what matters to you. Well, in philosophy, you need exactly the same. It's not just about knowing abstract ideas or theories. The philosopher needs real living examples of people who've embodied these ideas, these values that can show us not just how to think philosophically, but how to live philosophically. Because philosophy isn't just an exercise of thought, it's a way of life. Thus, you need a model, a reference point, that will be like a lighthouse or a set of stars guiding you through your darkest nights, your moments of doubt, which will come, when you don't know what to do or you feel too weak to go on. Here, if I hadn't set the limits I mentioned at the start, I would probably recommend one of the philosophical texts I've read the most, The Apology of Socrates, where Plato tells how his master stood firm before those who falsely accused him and wanted him dead. But setting that text aside, it's not exactly easy to choose, because there are so many biographies of philosophers, and some of them are truly great. Plato of Athens by Robin Waterfield, Thomas Aquinas by Chesterton, Friedrich Nietzsche in his works by Lou von Salome, Wittgenstein's biography by Ray Monk. Actually, if you have a favorite, drop it in the comments and I will take a look. And feel free to mention any other philosophy book that has changed your life. But if I had to pick one that covers a wide range of philosophers instead of just one, I would recommend this: Examined Lives from Socrates to Nietzsche by James Miller. As my fifth and final recommendation, I bring you a book that literally revolutionized the way I think. You've got your travel guide, you know your ship inside out, you know where the dangers are, your personal hero is in sight. So what else do you need? What's still missing? You are missing a mission, a purpose to keep you going on the toughest days. You are missing the awareness of the impact philosophy, both good and bad philosophy, can have on the world. Because sometimes we think philosophy is just an abstract mental exercise with no real consequences. But that couldn't be farther from the truth. And to really burn that lesson into your mind, I've found no better book than Hannah Arendt's Eichmann in Jerusalem. In this book, Arendt recounts the trial of Adolf Eichmann, one of the main figures behind the Nazi final solution during the Holocaust. And page by page, she shows how the most monstrous evils can come from the most ordinary people. And she tells the story of how an entire nation came to commit the most abominable atrocities, precisely because it ignored philosophy's call, because it stopped thinking. With these recommendations, you are more than ready to begin your own philosophical journey across the ocean of thought. But even with all of this, you will probably still run into one of the greatest terrors of any philosophy student: an existential crisis. If you want to know how I overcame my biggest existential crisis with philosophy, click here and watch this video because I will explain it to you. And above all, don't forget to think.